Hello, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of The Gonzales Mitchell Show. I'm Clay Mitchell.
And I'm Patrick Gonzales.
And Patrick, we took a little time off. We had a little respite looking back, especially over the past couple weeks. We've had some bad news and some good news uh, that affects the nation. I feel so sorry for those families and those little girls at that camp in Kerrville, Texas. I've seen the videos of the flooding and the damage that was done, and it's just heartbreaking and horrific. What are your reflections and thoughts on that?
Well, first, when it breaks my heart, and words for me will only diminish. So I have no words at all, but it boggles my mind. I can't even imagine it. And I guess my reflection is, since the beginning of time, since the beginning of humans, tragedies have happened. And you and I have observed over our lifetimes just this mass transformation in information dissemination. And with this ubiquitous sort of never ending news cycle, maybe it's too much information, and it overwhelms me. So,
I saw in the news today they're expecting more rain in that area. And I just hope that everybody gets out. I know that the search is on still, but I hope that everybody is safe today there. And time will tell what the ultimate result is. But for today, I hope everybody stays away and gets out, leave the professionals to do the work that they need to do. Again,
right.
it's just one of those heartbreaking tragedies that it's going to affect that community forever. The other thing, Patrick, today is
Yeah, and
July
we've
3rd.
had, here in the
Go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
no, no, I was just gonna say, we've had tragedies here recently in the states, so it's life, and it's life is hard sometimes, Clay Mitchell.
It's speaking of tragedies. We're recording this on July 13th. 1 year ago, that little guy, I don't know who this guy was, got on the roof of that AGR center in Butler, Pennsylvania, fired off 8 shots, one of them killing Corey, the fireman, and one grazing the ear or temple of President Trump. It was within millimeters of killing him. I shudder to think what would happen if that young punk succeeded. But a year ago today, where were you?
I was a year ago today at about 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I was upstairs. I walked down and I looked at my phone and I had a message from you, and it said the president's been shot. I said, "What the?" And I can't remember the order. I either turned on the TV or called you and started watching. And I got to be honest, Clay, for the next 18 or so hours was one of the kind of most unusual periods in my life within what's on inside my mind and inside my being. Number one, I kind of flash back to what's, similar situations in my life. When I was 18, um, a couple of those women tried to whack Jerry Ford back in September of '75,
Right.
and fortunately unsuccessfully. And then in '68, I'm in sixth grade, and Martin Luther King is assassinated in April. And literally, the week I was graduating from the sixth grade, Bobby Kennedy was shot right after midnight as he had just won the California primary. And the number one flashback I had was to first grade which is where I was at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the teacher came in and said, "School is over. The president has been shot." So it was kind of all that. But the whole period, as I'm watching it, I'm trying to figure out, listening to the news and kind of getting all the details. And, my mind's kind of blown when I'm starting to learn some of the details, like the perch where this ding dong was kind of an obvious, how the fuck did someone get up there? But all that aside, but I think, and I wasn't thinking about it at the time, Clay, but within me, there was kind of this sense, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but there was this kind of this sense, this election's over. Donald Trump's the next president. And, as we see how it progressed. But it was, I don't know, it was definitely an unusual time. And you and I were talking during that period. So remind me what kind of your thoughts were.
I was watching one of the channels, I think it was Fox Live, where they have the live feeds going on from all over the place. I was just sitting there watching, nothing else really to do. I just clicked and watched it. And my wife Lori was in the other room, and when he grabbed his ear and went down, you could tell something very bad just happened. And the crowd stands up, and you could tell that they were yelling and screaming. And I said, "Oh my gosh, Lori, I think the president's been shot." She comes in there, and we watched the coverage. They took him away. He did the fight, fight, fight thing where you knew, or at least I believed, that he was going to be okay. But like you, it's one of those imprints that stays in your mind forever. I remember the Jerry Ford thing too. And the other thing that comes to mind is I was watching football the night Howard Cosell announced John Lennon was shot. And the Challenger disaster. Those are the moments that you'll always remember vividly for the rest of your life. I just hope we never see anything like that again. You could tell
Yeah.
after 6 weeks or so, the president seemed to be okay. He went to the convention, and the rest is history.
And I guess for what it's worth, as we sit here a year later and we've seen what's transpired with regard to politics and the election and all that, as I sit here right now, I guess my my thought will always be, okay, but let's never forget somebody died that day. Okay, it grazed President Trump's ear, but somebody died, and some other people were shot. I don't know what their lives are like right now, but so, and the person that died, he really was a Pennsylvania dad. Okay, he left behind a wife and children. So that's what I guess I'm left with. And to the extent I encourage others, it would be to remember that.
Exactly right. Well, let's shift gears a second. The other thing that's come up, it affected me personally, is last weekend, 4th of July weekend, there was a 16-mile backup at the Bay Bridge, westbound. The first thing I have to say is I appreciate the commissioners, the Queen Anne's County commissioners, for working with the state to block off some of those exit ramps to allow local people to be able to travel throughout the island and to allow emergency vehicles the freedom to go back and forth without having to worry about being stuck in a jam. That being said, that is a symptom that this state really needs to do something with its infrastructure. And I'm not talking about subways and that type of thing. That's a huge pile of money that goes into a hole. We're not Denmark. We travel by car in this country, and we have to do something to correct the problem there. there's a lot of money that's being raised by the state through various taxes and fees that could be put to work with that. In 1952 or so, the first Bay Bridge was put up. 1972, the second Bay Bridge was opened up. In the 80s, we had Reach the Beach. That seemed to solve things for a while, but we're right back where we were a generation ago with severe traffic problems. And the state really needs to do something about that. What are your thoughts?
Well, and I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but actually, the second span opened on the end of June 1973. I remember
Three.
going
Okay.
on it soon after, and I lived on I lived on Kent Island back in the '70s, and what I remember about it, and this is before Schaefer became gov and did his Reach to the Beach thing. But remember back in the '70s, the bridge over the Kent Narrows was a drawbridge. So
Yes.
these people would come plowing, heading toward the beach, and at some point they had to lift the drawbridge up. So it would
Yeah.
back traffic up. And every there were probably 10 stoplight traffic lights on Kent Island from the end of the Bay Bridge to the beginning of the Kent Narrows Bridge. Every intersection had a traffic light.
It did. It
So
did.
you'd stop. But anyway, and traffic was a pain in the butt. If you remember Desi's restaurant, it was right before the
Yes.
Kent Narrows as you're coming down 50 on the right, and it was opened
Yes.
by the Desi family who had the Galleon restaurant in Annapolis. But anyway, one of the oldest Desi boy took up as a business. He would ride his bicycle up and down through the traffic and sell frozen popsicles and ice cream. It was a very lucrative business. And then, as you stated, all of a sudden, Willie Don comes along and does his Reach to the Beach. And all of a sudden, that made it a much easier trip. And he solved the problems that were existing at that time. But, Clay, the problems that are existing now are sheer volume, just the number of people that do that trip now compared to 40 years ago and stuff. And that's got to be dealt with. And so far, it's just allowed to kind of get worse and worse and worse. And where we're at now um, is nowhere. So,
I think it takes a generational investment for something like that. And I just hate to see
it
us
does.
pour billions of dollars digging holes in the ground when you have to build a subway and then subsidize its use. That's not the way we should do that. The Bay Bridge is a economic artery, and it's for commerce, it's for high speed travel, and it's for connecting the western shore to the eastern shore. Uh, there's plans for a new span. I forgot whether it was 6 or 8 lanes, something big. But there's a lot of
Right.
infrastructure that has to go into that too. There has to be road improvements on Route 50, both on the Western Shore side and the Eastern Shore side, to handle all of that. What are your thoughts about a new Bay Bridge, say, put it exactly where it is?
Well, I think just in a more broad sense, I think a lot of the decisions government makes um, is based on feelings, on emotion. And we're talking about, oh, this would be nice to have these kind of different methods of public transportation. And but they're not based on reason. Because if it's based on reason, you got to sit down, okay, it's going to cost X amount to construct whatever. X amount are going to use it. It's going to be efficient way of moving people from A to B because that's what transportation is. That's what life is, not only on a personal level but on a business level. And the Bay Bridge is, for a whole bunch of reasons, one of the more important economic components of the transportation system of Maryland. It's got to be dealt with. And I suppose what frustrates me the most with Maryland government writ large, is just the sheer extent to which it's being driven by emotion, by feelings. And you can't live life that way. And so I think a concerted, and I think we're starting to find out that, you know, all what was described a couple of months ago. Oh, well, that budget deficit, that budget hole, we just solved that. No, we didn't. And we're going to discover in the
No, we
next
didn't.
several months that, boy, no, we didn't. Now we're going to have to stop, playing games and talking about it and do something. And it's just, why not just sort of sit down, make some hard choices, and move forward? And I hope that's what happens. But I'm not holding my breath.
I think different than New York. New York is so condensed and crowded, they have to go by rail, by subway there. I don't think, and this is me as a lifelong Marylander, we are a car society. We don't use public transportation. And if there is public transportation, I'm against building it at a high cost and then subsidizing its use. To me, let's put that money towards roads and bridges, put asphalt down, put blacktop down, improve the road system, and make it more efficient. I think that's the greenest thing we can do. If you spend less time in traffic and more time just getting from point A to B, you save fuel, and it's a lifestyle issue. It's your quality of life improves without having to be in soul crushing traffic. And I just dread riding across that bridge anymore. One accident and you're stuck, my friend.
No, absolutely. And I think it benefits everybody. I mean, I think it's, and there are certainly uses. I mean, the, and I'm no expert on transportation, but there are many like trains in and out of Washington for commuters in different ways. The light rail, I know in the past, I haven't ridden it in a while, but it was an efficient way rather than driving into the city to go to a game or something, parking up at Northern Anne Arundel. And so there are definitely examples where it can be useful, but to put, overload the, sort of emphasis on it that doesn't match reality, and that gets back to emotion versus reason. And I just think there is a better approach that needs to be taken. And hopefully, as we move forward, our different elected officials will utilize that a little more. I hope.
I agree with you, my friend. Well, we've completed one season of the Gonzales Mitchell Show. We're looking forward to season two. I hope we can have some newsmakers on. I think we will very soon. And we'll have just expand the discussion. If any of our viewers have something you'd like us to talk about, let us know in the comments. I think that I look forward to the next year. We're going to have a busy year coming up.
When you said episode 2, season 1, I thought I was on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Oh my God, Patrick Gonzales is like All in the Family, or Happy Days, or The Love Boat. I
Oh,
just
the
I feel like
love
I'm
boat.
the love. Boat. I feel like I'm a TV star. I Love Lucy. Oh my lordy! Season 2, episode 1, starring Patrick Gonzales and Clay Mitchell. Oh my lordy!
I'm out in public sometimes and somebody will say, "Hey, do you know Patrick Gonzalez?" And I always say, "Who wants to know?" Just to be safe, my
Yeah,
friend. Just to
exactly.
be safe.
Oh, absolutely. I understand.
Well, Patrick, I look at that clock on the wall. I think our time for today has come to a conclusion. And I'm afraid, my friend, it's time to say goodbye, Patrick.
Season 2, episode 1 is over. Goodbye, Patrick.
Goodbye, Patrick. See you soon.
You